There's a moment in every man's life when he sees the person he loves clearly, not through hope, not through what he wants her to be, but exactly as she is. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday evening in October. My mother had just been discharged from the hospital after a minor surgery. Nothing life-threatening, but she was 68, living alone, and for the next 3 weeks she needed help. Simple things. Someone to cook a meal, someone to sit with her, someone to make sure she didn't fall getting out of the shower. I thought that someone was going to be us. My wife, Elena, and I had been married for 4 years. We weren't newlyweds anymore, but I still believed we had something solid, something built on respect. I worked hard, 12-hour days in a logistics company, came home tired, but always showed up, paid the bills without complaint, supported her boutique business when it was struggling, put in $30,000 of my own savings without blinking. I didn't keep score. That was never my style. My mother had always been quiet around Elena, never intrusive, never demanding. She lived 40 minutes away and we saw her maybe twice a month. She never called unless she had to. She was the kind of woman who would suffer in silence before asking for anything because she didn't want to be a burden. So when she needed help, real help, for the first time in her life, I felt something protective rise in me, something instinctive. I came home that evening with a plan already forming. I'd work from her place a few days a week. Elena could check in on her during the afternoons since her boutique didn't open until 11, and on weekends we'd both be there together. It seemed simple. It seemed obvious. I sat down across from Elena at the kitchen table. She was scrolling through her phone, half listening. I explained the situation, the surgery, the recovery, what the doctor had said. I told her the plan. She looked up from her phone, and what she said next, in a tone so flat, so casual, changed everything between us. "Marcus, I'm sorry about your mom, but I really can't be going back and forth to her place every week. I have my own schedule. She's your mother, not mine." She said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. No hesitation, no softness, just a quiet refusal wrapped in a smile. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just nodded. But inside something shifted, something that would never fully shift back. Looking back now, I realize I should have seen it earlier. The signs were always there. I had just chosen not to read them. I handled my mother's recovery alone. I rearranged my schedule, took remote days when I could, drove the 40 minutes every morning before work for 2 weeks straight. I cooked on Sundays and left containers in her freezer. I hired a part-time nurse for the days I couldn't be there. Elena never came once. She asked once how my mom was doing, casually, the way you'd ask about a coworker you barely know. I said she's recovering. She nodded and changed the subject. I didn't make it a fight, but I watched. That's when I started paying attention to things I had previously overlooked. Elena spent 4 evenings a week with her friends, dinners, events, weekends away. I had always supported that. I believed in giving a woman her space. But now I started noticing who was texting her at 11 at night. I started noticing how she'd angle her phone away when I walked by, how she'd laugh at something on her screen and then go quiet when she realized I was in the room. I didn't confront her. I observed. One afternoon I came home early. My afternoon meeting had been canceled. Her car was in the driveway, but the house was quiet. I found her in the living room on a video call, laughing in a way I hadn't heard in months. She startled when she saw me, ended the call fast. She said it was a client consultation. I said nothing. I just went to the kitchen and made coffee. But I had seen enough of the screen to recognize the face on the other end. It was a man named Daniel, someone she had introduced me to at a party 8 months ago as just an old friend from college. Still, I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I understood something that day that took me a long time to put into words. The person who refuses to show up for your family will always find time to show up for someone else. It wasn't just the betrayal of trust. It was the contrast. The energy she had saved by refusing to sit with my elderly mother for one afternoon, that same energy, I was now watching her pour freely into something she actually wanted. That's what broke the illusion completely. Not anger, not jealousy, just clarity. Over the next few weeks, I quietly began separating things. I opened a personal account. I started moving my direct deposit. I spoke to a lawyer not to be aggressive, but to understand my position. I documented what I needed to document. I didn't tell a single person what I was doing. I went to work every morning. I came home. I was civil. I was calm. But I was done. There's a particular kind of strength that comes when a man stops hoping someone will change and starts accepting who they actually are. No bitterness, no rage, just a quiet, settled decision. That decision had already been made. All that remained was the moment to act on it. The moment came 6 weeks later. My mother was fully recovered. I had taken her out to dinner, just the two of us, and she held my hand across the table and said, "You are the best thing I ever did." I drove home that night with something settled in my chest. I sat down with Elena, and I told her, calmly, clearly, without raising my voice, that I wanted a divorce. She stared at me. I think she expected anger. She expected a confrontation she could navigate, argue through, manage. What she got instead was a man who had already finished grieving the marriage months before the conversation. She tried to walk it back. She brought up the years, the memories, the life we had built. She even cried. I listened, fully, respectfully, and then I told her that I had already spoken to a lawyer, that I had filed the paperwork 3 days prior, and that I had arranged for her to remain in the apartment for 60 days while she figured out her next steps. She asked me why. I told her the truth. Not Daniel, not the late-night texts. I didn't need to go there. I told her, the day you looked me in the eye and told me you couldn't spare an afternoon for my mother, that was the day I started planning this conversation. She had no answer for that. The boutique struggled after we separated. The $30,000 I had invested was repaid to me as part of the settlement. My lawyer had made sure of it. She moved in with a friend. Daniel, as it turned out, was already with someone else. He had never been available the way she imagined. I heard all of this through mutual friends. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt free. My mother calls me every Sunday morning now. We talk for an hour sometimes, about nothing important, about everything that matters. She laughs more than she used to. I've rebuilt quietly. A new apartment. a clearer head, a better version of my daily life. I work out in the mornings. I sleep better. I've learned what it means to protect my peace like it's the most valuable thing I own, because it is. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry about how things turned out. I tell them the truth. The best revenge isn't chaos. It's becoming someone the wrong person no longer has access to. She didn't lose a husband on the day I filed those papers. She lost a man who would have stood by her through anything, who already had, quietly for years, and that's something no second chance can return. Some lessons come too late, and some men they only have to learn once.